So if you haven't given your kitchen a makeover, you're probably spending a lot of money on supplements, herbs, medical tests, etc., and not getting that far with your health. So before I share with you why I believe doing your own kitchen makeover is essential on your healing path and for anyone who wants to achieve optimal health, I'm going to share with you my own story of how I came to understand why this is so important. So in my late teens, I studied aesthetics. And when I was in aesthetic school, my instructor told us that we should go to the health food store and get this amazing supplement called evening primrose oil because it's really good for your hair, skin, and nails. Now, up to that point in my life, I had only ever been to a health food store because my friend's dad was a bit of a hippie and he lived in this granola area of Winnipeg where I grew up. And he had the most delicious natural peanut butter. Prior to that, I'd only ever had Skippy and like all these like processed brands of peanut butter that had like sugar and like refined oils added to them. And something about that peanut butter, like actually tasting the authenticity of it is just like so much more, I could just feel the difference. It tasted better, it felt better. And that was my only experience, although it did make an impression on me about knowing the difference between like food as it is found in nature versus what's done to it in industrialized society. So that was the first seed. But the second was when my instructor told us about this evening primrose oil. So I went to the health food store and I didn't go there because I was wanting to take something to be healthy. I just wanted to be more beautiful. So it was completely for, aesthetic reasons, not for health. And what I did was I actually bought this supplement and I left it at my school and I took it every morning when I got there at the same time. And what I noticed over a period of, I don't know if it was like a couple of days or a week or 2 weeks, I have no idea. But at some point I started to notice that I would feel this sunniness arise in me every day. And then I would look at the clock for some reason. It was almost like I was doing this unconsciously to get my own attention to see what was happening for me. So I'd feel this inside, I'd look at the clock, and then this happened a couple different times. And I realized, why every day at 10 o'clock do I suddenly feel sunny inside? Now, this was huge because I had a long history of being depressed. Like basically since I started menstruation, I had raging PMS, mood swings, depression, anxiety, and paranoia. And I would live like this every month. Like I would spend the 2 weeks leading up to my period, I felt like a basket case. The week I was bleeding, I felt exhausted and bloated and crampy and tired and all those things. Then I would feel normal for 1 week. So this was my existence for my whole entire teenage life. And I just didn't remember feeling happy, right? So this sunny feeling just felt like unfamiliar, but like so amazing. So I made the correlation that every day, 1 hour before 10 o'clock was when I took that supplement. And so this was in the beginning stages of the internet. So there wasn't like, a lot out there, but I went on the internet at this time to see why is it that this supplement that I took for beautiful hair, skin, and nails was making me feel happy. And what I discovered is that it was full of essential fatty acids, which are excellent for hormone balance and for helping with neurotransmitters, feel-good hormones. And even that there's a history of Indigenous women chewing on them, mothers, when they were feeling overburdened with motherhood. So there was the scientific, nutrition explanation because of essential fats. And then there was the traditional use of this herb. And it literally transformed my life because that's not all that happened. Like I went from all those problems, mental, emotional problems, to also noticing that I could focus really well and that I could accomplish things. Like I was like, wow, like this is how normal people experience reality. Like no wonder other people accomplish so much more than I accomplish in life and are so much more productive and, get farther. So I just felt like a whole new person. My mind like not just the mental, emotional side of it, but the motivation, inspiration, and mental capacity to actually thrive in the world came back online because I filled in this nutritional deficiency that I had. So when I was going to this health food store, I spoke to the woman who was running the store, and it was her husband's store. He was a naturopath, and she told me the story about how he had helped her get pregnant, even though she'd been diagnosed with endometriosis and told that she would never get pregnant. And of course, she was standing in front of me 8 months pregnant. So she planted the next seed, right? The first seed was, wow, natural foods actually taste better than processed foods. The second was that just because the medical system tells you that something is not curable and that you have to just live with it, that doesn't mean that it's true. So fast forward, I get diagnosed with mono. And of course, the only thing you get when you get a mono diagnosis is a prescription for antibiotics and, you know, the go to bed and sleep, basically. And so I was living in Vancouver. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And that's where all my family was. So I couldn't afford to just go to sleep for 2 years because I needed to put a roof over my head. And so I decided that I would go back to this health food store and talk to this lady who healed herself of something when she was told that it wasn't possible to heal. So I figured, well, maybe there's something for mono that we don't know about that you could find out about in a health food store. So I went back to this health food store. I told her that I was diagnosed with mono. She went to this amazing book called Prescriptions for Nutritional Healing, and she opened it to the section on mono. Now, because she was passionate about natural health and, you know, doing this work because she really cared, and because she knew that I was working in a job that wasn't a high-paying profession and I was young, she actually gave me 30% off everything that I could possibly afford so that I could get the most supplements to support my body to heal. So I bought as much as I could, following, you know, the order of importance in this book. And then I went home and I just literally changed everything overnight. Like, I went from the standard North American diet to a whole foods diet. Like, it must have been like days or 1 week. Like, I literally just stopped everything that wasn't natural foods. And I mean, I could go on and on because this is the beginning of my journey of how I became passionate about natural health. But the long and the short of it was that within a month, I felt, compared to how I felt the beginning, the day I walked into that health food store to 4 weeks later, I felt about 70% better. And that all that was me changing from a natural, or from the standard North American diet, making the change from the standard North American diet to a natural whole foods diet, and then adding the supportive supplements to help my immune system. And I just was like amazed, right? Because I was expecting to, you know, like, I just didn't know what was going to happen. I thought that I might actually have to go back home to Winnipeg and live with my parents again. So, you know, I was so pleased with that. But within 6 months, by the way, I didn't miss even a day of work having mono. And 6 months later, my chronic yeast infections, like bladder infections, acne was completely gone. And that was not with me doing anything specific to try to help those issues. It was literally just me providing my body with what it needed, which was natural foods. So this experience that I had with mono was incredible because not only did it put me on this journey, but when you have mono, your body becomes really sensitive. So I could immediately tell if something was toxic, right? So when you have a high level of vitality and you're super healthy, you don't always notice the effect of the different things that you might be putting in your body because your vitality is high, right? We have a much higher tolerance level for things. You know, when we're really healthy, we take in toxins and our liver can handle it, right? So we don't notice the effect of it. So our body has the resources to get rid of it. but I didn't. So because I was so sensitive, I was literally able to tell what all these chemicals that we're exposed to and things that are not that great for your health. Because my system was so sensitive, I was able to like isolate and identify everything that I needed to change to support my body to heal. And of course, those things that we have to change, those are not necessarily things that, I stopped doing for the rest of my life. But I could see the impact of when you have them to the, too much of them, that they have negative impacts on your health. So for example, when I would have even a tiny bit of refined white sugar, I would crash. Like I would feel like literally within a day I would catch a cold, like every time. So I had to completely get rid of that. Like I couldn't even at that point, and this is just the reality. Like when you have something that you're fighting off, or trying to recover from, you sometimes have to be more extreme, right? So I had to have absolutely no sugar in my diet. If I had a cup of coffee, what I noticed was I didn't get oftentimes people get a lift and then a crash because of the impact on blood sugar. Well, when I had mono, I didn't even get a lift. I'd have a cup of coffee and I'd get a crash instead. So I got to notice that I also had to stop smoking cigarettes, right? Because again, I would just feel just terrible immediately if I not only smoked a cigarette or even if I was around somebody who smoked cigarettes. So at that point, I switched over everything, right? Like it wasn't just food. It was personal care cleaning products. I mean, the owner of the salon that I worked at was not happy because I went from being this girl who, had her makeup on every day and did her hair and had her nails done and, all this stuff to going completely granola and being like, I'm not even going to wear a drop of makeup. Forget it. Right. I don't even know if they had natural makeup back then, but I literally transformed myself and my diet and lifestyle overnight. And it supported me to heal. And that was without any targeted strategies for the other things, right? I just had focused on how do I address this issue called mono when it came to the supplements and everything. So this journey for me showed me just how powerful it is to make that transformation from the standard North American diet to a whole foods diet. Prior to this experience, I had no idea that food was so important with our health. Now, I mean, I guess I generally had an idea of that. I think we kind of all do because we notice if we, eat junk food or we overeat, we feel bad. But I just didn't realize how much of what we suffer with in life is the result of not getting enough nutrients so we don't have the building blocks to actually heal and rejuvenate, combined with toxic excesses that are getting in the way of our body healing. So this is why giving your kitchen a whole foods makeover is the foundation of optimal health and healing. Because if you try to throw supplements, for example, at your health condition, but without actually changing the foods that you're putting in your body every single meal and then every single day for the rest of your life, those supplements, herbs, etc., the fancy stuff that we try to do, we go from this idea of okay, well, I don't want to use drugs because that's toxic, so I'm going to use natural remedies. But those natural remedies are being applied like drugs when we do it like that, right? Because no one thing is going to be the magic bullet to transform your life. Now, I'm not going to say that never happens, right? Because I just told you my story of how the first thing I changed was one thing. And that made a huge difference for me, the evening primrose oil. But, that's more rare, but it does happen. So, I don't want to implant this idea that you can't have miracles with, getting the right herb or right, nutritional supplement, right? Because if it's literally the thing that is the reason, it's a deficiency that you have, just that one thing can make a really big difference. But it is not going to be as effective as if you don't have a foundation underneath that, right? Like you do need to eat real natural foods because that's where you get those essential fatty acids. So the whole reason, for example, why that primrose was needed, why I needed to have it in concentrated amounts, these essential fatty acids, is because I hadn't been eating the natural foods that have those essential fatty acids, right? So, I was eating burgers and French fries at this point, and grilled cheese sandwiches, not nuts and seeds. They're the natural source of essential fatty acids. So I wasn't eating any of those things. So that's why just taking that one thing made such a difference. We actually have the power to change our health based on what we eat and how we live our lifestyle, and making the decision to find out where there might be toxins in our food or lifestyle and eliminating them from our lives so that our body can do what it's naturally designed to do, which is heal itself. The only reason it doesn't heal itself is because it's either missing something that it needs to do so, or there's something in the way that's blocking it from being able to heal itself. And the things that it needs, you're not going to find in the doctor's office. You're going to actually find those things in your kitchen. So basically, you need to identify where you're missing nutrients and where there might be toxins coming in that are blocking your body's capacity to heal. However, the kitchen makeover part of it is so key because it's what you eat every single meal of every day of your life moving forward that's going to make all the difference when it comes to the future trajectory of your health. What most people do is they find a special healing diet and they go on it temporarily to restore their health. Or if they do that, right? Because sometimes people just go straight to the supplements and the herbs and don't even set that foundation in place. So, and oftentimes that's because their practitioners are not working with that side of things, right? As practitioners, we can get really focused on our special designer things that we're offering to people and missing this foundational piece that should be put in place for the supplements and the herbs, etc. Whatever, other modalities that we're adding to the table need to be on this foundation. For me at the time when I got mono, it wasn't just that I was not eating natural foods, but I was being exposed to a ton of toxicity, right? I was working in a aesthetics and hairdressing salon. So I had my hands in acetone all day, and then I was like breathing in the fumes of perms and hair dye and like blow drying hair and all this kind of stuff. So I basically put myself in a position to weaken my immune system, making me susceptible to having mono. So we do have to look at it on an individual basis. It's not just what's happening in your kitchen, although there is a lot of toxins that come in through the choices that people make at the everyday level in terms of what they put in their shopping cart. It's really important to put this foundation in place because if you go on a special healing diet, or you go to a practitioner and they give you this beautiful protocol of supplements or herbs to take, you might get results, but what are you going to do in the future, right? Like when you're done the supplement protocol or you're done the special healing diet, like what are you going back to? Your old way? If you go back to your old way, you're just going to recreate the same health problems that you had. So that's why I'm just so passionate about sharing this simple thing. It's like so simple. The quality of the foods that you put in your kitchen and that you cook with every single day have more power to change your health than any herb or supplement, right? Because if you think about it, just the quantity of it alone, right? What you're eating this much of your herbs in a day, but how much is your food on your plate, right? Everything that you put in your body has an effect on your physiology. So what you do with your meals is going to have a much bigger effect than, any supplements or, herbs that you take. Not dogging, supplements or herbs or homeopathy or any of the other amazing tools that we have to support our body to get unblocked to heal itself. But unfortunately, I think far too many people are not getting the results that they could be getting with those because they don't have this foundation in place, right? Like, how is your body going to respond if it doesn't have the basic resources, or you're constantly sabotaging all these amazing things you're putting in your body with toxic chemicals coming in from your hair care, your makeup, your whatever, you're choosing the wrong quality of foods and they're coming in with toxins, right? There's a lot of sabotaging that we're doing if we don't make this change. So if you want those supplements, those herbs, and those other modalities that you're using, energy medicine, etc., to function at their highest capacity, they need a body that's properly fueled and is not burdened by toxins. Okay, so I'm going to share with you how I help people do this. So I have an e-course called the Kitchen Makeover e-course, where I walk people through the steps to basically take their kitchen from being a standard North American kitchen to a natural whole foods kitchen. That's why I call it a kitchen makeover. So the first thing that we do is we go through our kitchen and we get rid of, things that are old, things that are expired, broken things in your kitchen, the stuff that's like, it's like the old energy of the old you, and we're making space for the new. Part of that, making that space, is the second step, creating sacred space in your kitchen. Consciously creating sacred space in your kitchen is changing your relationship with your kitchen and how you feel about food. The next thing we do is we audit your kitchen. So there's certain things that are pretty much in everybody's kitchen that most people aren't aware of, that they could easily change, that would impact the quality, nutritional quality. So the meals will have more nutrients and less toxins just by switching the products that you're buying. So that's the next step, right? Is like just going through your kitchen, cupboards, your fridge, and just looking at everything, reading the labels, etc., and determining what should stay and what should go. Now, I'm a big believer that you should be able to eat what you want and not feel deprived. Like, if you have to not experience pleasure with food, like, seriously, what's the point? And that's ridiculous. The food that is natural, made with natural whole food ingredients, tastes way better than foods that are made with processed food ingredients. So when you become health conscious and you make the switch, everything tastes better, and you're gonna have way more pleasure in your food than you ever had before. I was so surprised about that when I became health conscious, because I was like, wow, like, I'm not limited. I'm actually expanding the amount of food and pleasure that I'm getting from food by becoming health conscious, because I'm learning about all these foods I didn't even know existed and how to make them taste delicious. So the next step is restocking. So once you've determined, what you're willing to give up, just let it go. Then you're going to find that there's some things that you're like, oh, I know this is not exactly super healthy for me, but I don't want to give it up because I get so much pleasure out of it. Now, those are where I like to help people to find their lateral shifts. The things like, okay, it might not be a perfect food, like ideally nutrition-wise, but can we get a version of it that's at least not toxic? Like, let's up-level it at the bare minimum. That's going to make a huge difference in a person's health. So it doesn't have to be like, instant from like eating junk food to being a Puritan about food, right? You can stair-step your way to your kitchen being a solid base of natural, healthy, whole foods. The other thing is there's things that you can make homemade, right? So if you actually make anything, like, it doesn't matter what you could possibly think of that you would want to eat, that you can't imagine giving up, and that's the thing that's stopping you from becoming health conscious, because you imagine that you're not going to enjoy food anymore. Every single thing that you're eating now, you can actually make a whole food version of it at home. So it's not that it's certain, foods are bad, like certain meals. It's like, what ingredients do you use to make that meal is going to make the difference about whether it's healthy for you or not. So after restocking, the next thing we need to do is detox your kitchen. So there's a bunch of things in your kitchen right now that are sources of toxicity. It's what you use to cook your foods and store your foods, etc. So we need to go through all that stuff. You want to upgrade the quality of the kitchen equipment that you use in your kitchen. The final step is repeat. Now, I don't know anyone who is perfect, including myself. We all, let things slide, bring things in, after time. So this is a process that I would encourage all of my students to keep going back to, like once a year. Do this process in your kitchen. Even if you didn't let anything come in your kitchen that's not in alignment with natural whole foods diet, it just gets cluttered, right? And there might be things that have gone stale or old or whatever. Using the system is something that you can do every time you do your spring cleaning in your kitchen. And then, you're just stepping more deeply into creating that connection with your kitchen and connection with self-nourishment and, creating that feeling of your kitchen being a sacred space, because, hey, that's where you're nourishing your family. That's where you're nourishing yourself. It's self-care basically, right? Like we don't even need a self-care routine. If all you're doing is spending time consciously in your kitchen, being creative with food and nourishing yourself, that's self-care. Okay, so if this resonates with you, it makes perfect sense. This is like the thing that you've missed, or maybe you already eat a whole foods diet, but you're looking for a way to get re-inspired and maybe find some things that you want to up level in your kitchen that you never thought of, or you just need to be reminded about why you make these conscious choices in your life. Some of us have been in the natural health field or being health conscious for 20 years or more. And sometimes we forget why we make the choices that we make in the first place. So it's a really good refresher as well to do this process. So if you'd like to learn more about the Kitchen Makeover Challenge, the link is in the description box where you can register and join us for the Kitchen Makeover Challenge.